What is going on YouTube? Gabmus here and welcome to the 18th episode of the Tech Pills weekly live stream. Alright, so I hope you like that little glitch effect. That's something new that I wanted to try. And it's actually made with a video editor called Shotcut. And it's composed onto the scene with OBS, so nothing too fancy, but if you want to do some glitching effect, I really suggest you try Shotcut for it. It has a really interesting built-in effect for that, and the result is, it looks pretty good. Anyway, let's jump to the first news of today. So, GNOME 3.36 has just recently been released, and it's already rolling out to most mainstream distributions out there, namely Arch, Manjaro, most rolling releases, as well as the upcoming Ubuntu 20.04 LTS. But of course, work has already started towards the new version of GNOME 3.38. Notably, one change that has just been made, has just been merged, is the so-called full-screen unredirect support for Wayland in Matter, so inside the GNOME compositor Matter. What does this even mean? So this is actually very simple. It means then when a full screen application is running, Matter will avoid doing any extra work since there are no other visible windows on the screen to manage. This will almost certainly translate in a noticeable performance improvement in games running on a GNOME Wayland session. So of course this is one more step towards wider adoption of Wayland, because it's already mostly usable as a daily driver, a Wayland session, and I've tried that many times already at this point, but there are still some little showstoppers that need to be sorted. In this case, one is the poor performance in demanding 3D games. This fix will probably allow many new users to switch to Wayland, bringing adoption up and hopefully representing another step towards the retirement of Xorg. So what do you guys think? Are you ready to switch to Wayland? Is this what you were waiting for to do the switch? Or is there something else that still bugs you about the whole Wayland experience? Let me know in the chat. So moving on to the next news of today. There's quite a lot of stuff going on with window managers these days, right? We talked about Matter up to a couple of seconds ago, and now we're talking about KWIN, the KDE window manager. So, KWIN has a new interesting fork. It's called KWIN FT, and it's been announced by Roman Gilg, a developer who recently became a contractor for Valve. So, of course, if you don't know, Valve is the company that develops Steam, and one of the few companies that has believed in the future of the Linux desktop for regular users and for gaming. So, this new fork of KWIN, again KWIN FT, is being made to be able to be more aggressive with development. The standard KWIN has to remain stable, and changes have to be made slowly and more carefully, because there are many users that need to keep working as it's always been. So for stability and for the sake of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, apparently development in KWIN has been rather slow. And of course, it discourages big changes in the code base. But with this new fork, this problem should be more or less solved. Because, well, it's not KWIN, so breaking it wouldn't represent any issue except for the power users that actively choose to run it as a replacement for KWIN. So far, the KWIN compositor pipeline has been reworked in this new fork, and there is this should be bringing better support, better performance, and lower presentation latency overall. Other changes include Wayland Viewporter extension to be able to have full screen windows with a lower resolution than the one of the monitor. Think about older games that need to run at lower resolutions in your shiny 4K monitor. Of course, having support for something like that is 100% needed, as well as full output rotation and mirroring again in Wayland. So KWIN FT is being developed to be a drop-in replacement for the standard KDE KWIN. So if you're interested and want to play around with it, you can already install it on Manjaro from the unstable branch as the KWIN FT package, or on Arch via the AUR with the package called KWIN FT-git. So what do you guys think? Are you curious to try this new version of KWIN? Do you use KDE or KWIN for that matter in your day-to-day life? And do you think that any of these issues or improvements that have been made in KWIN FT would actually improve your day-to-day life? There also have been some concerns about the fact that KWIN has been hard forked instead of just branched, because well, one of the developers of the original developers of KWIN, so he is no longer active in the development of KWIN, but he commented that he wasn't completely 100% on the idea of forking, and instead he said that this separation of concerns, this ability to be able to move faster, could have been achieved with a simple branch. Well, I have to agree with him. I also think that possibly this developer didn't have access, or the kind of access they needed to the repo to be able to just do a branch, and maybe he also wanted to make more branches and have a more complex structure without having to pollute the KWIN repository. So there may be many reasons why a hard fork was made instead of just a branch. Anyway, I think that this will all end up being in back in KWIN upstream, so I think it's still all good as far as I'm concerned. But what do you people think? Let me know, as always, in the chat. All right, moving on to the next news of today. There is a new unofficial Ubuntu spin with the Deepin desktop environment. So, again, Ubuntu 20.04 is just coming out, and along with it, there's been so many new stuff, and now we also have a new unofficial Ubuntu spin, so another Ubuntu version if you want. Of course, this is still, again, not sponsored by Canonical or affiliated with the regular Ubuntu version, but it's pretty close apparently. So this new unofficial Ubuntu spin just came out seemingly out of nowhere. It's called Ubuntu DDE, and again, it's featuring one of the most popular distros out there. That's of course Ubuntu, with the fancy and pretty popular desktop environment from the Chinese-made distro Deepin Linux. Again, the Deepin desktop environment. The new Ubuntu spin is based again on 20.04 LTS, so I have to say great timing on that. And the project apparently started from the effort of the lead developer of packaging the Deepin desktop environment for Ubuntu, which ultimately led to the birth of a full fat Ubuntu derivative. And of course, that makes sense once you just make the repo with all of the packages, and once you start crafting like a default experience with all the Deepin packages, you may just as well do a full distro around it. Although the project seemingly spawned out of nowhere, it seems to be pretty legit. According to the popular open source news website It's FOSS, the team received some help from Alan Pope, well known in the community for his work with Ubuntu. Well, he is a Canonical employee. He usually works on Snapcraft, but of course he's involved with a lot of stuff regarding the wider Ubuntu and open source community, as well as the people behind the Ubuntu budgeting project and the Ubuntu Cinnamon project. Still, I couldn't find the source for this information myself, so I'm just mostly quoting It's FOSS here. I'm pretty sure this information is accurate, but again, I'm just quoting another article that I read. Because this information, I couldn't find it anywhere, so possibly the writer of It's FOSS just contacted the developers themselves and got this information firsthand, which is likely. But this information is nowhere to be found in the in the official page for Ubuntu DDE, nor in the Twitter page for the project. Actually, on the project page, there are not even the names of the developers, so I think that's just very young as a project, so the website is probably still not finished yet. Anyway, a pretty interesting project. One other nice thing is that since there are, well, some concerns regarding DeepIn and the privacy around it, or the use of third-party services that are, well, not really known for being privacy respecting, the Ubuntu DDE spin doesn't use the services integrated in Deepin Linux, namely the Deepin Software Center. Instead, it just uses the standard and well-known Ubuntu Software Center. So that's an interesting choice, and definitely if you want to try the Deepin desktop environment, this is now a pretty reasonable option to get your hands on it without having to delve into a Chinese-made distro with all the concerns that surround that. What do you guys think? Are you interested in the Deepin desktop environment? Are you interested in this new Ubuntu spin? Do you think it will become an official spin? Let me know, as always, in the chat. Alright, moving on to the next news. Ubuntu is now offering a rolling release kernel, but just for Amazon AWS. So, that's weird. Canonical just recently added a new feature for Amazon AWS hosted Ubuntu instances. It will ship with a rolling release kernel. That's great. Well, if it wasn't exclusive to AWS. Anyway, this will allow to have the latest and greatest improvements that will come to Linux kernel without having to wait for the lengthy release cycles of Ubuntu. So everything that we're familiar with rolling release distributions, with all the Arch users and Manjaro users out there, OpenSUSE Tumbleweed users, you're also part of the club, I guess. Of course, rolling is great for many reasons. It's not that great for many other reasons. And on a server deployment, you may think that this doesn't actually make too much sense, but it's an interesting concept because we're not talking about bare metal servers here. We're talking about virtualized instances of Ubuntu. So of course, inside the virtual machine, having a fast-moving kernel isn't that much of an issue compared to bare metal, where it can be kind of risky, particularly if some obscure device driver or kernel module doesn't like fresh new kernels. Of course, again, inside the virtual machine, these problems are a lot less pronounced, and of course, it won't be that big of a deal. Anyway, for anyone who's not interested in this new release, it's also possible to use the LTS kernel package to stick to the usual kernel found in the standard Ubuntu versions. So, of course, there's also the option to just stick to the LTS kernel, don't touch anything. But if, of course, you need every single megahertz or every single CPU cycle, you want it to be optimized and every millisecond counts, maybe this has some value for you. The really weird thing, while it's great news to see Ubuntu trying to get closer to upstream Linux kernel, it's again weird to have no indication of this new feature coming to more mainstream flavors of Ubuntu, including either desktop or server. I'd take any of them, which is kind of disappointing. I mean, Ubuntu is getting closer and closer to AWS Studio Amazon ecosystem, but in my opinion, this doesn't make too much sense because Ubuntu should be a free and open source software distribution. So making these features exclusive to a platform, it doesn't really make sense to me. I would love to be able to deploy this on my home server. I'd pay the consequences for it if I f up something. Of course, I wouldn't have the technical support, the paid for technical support for it, but I'd still want to play around with it and know how it works, and if it works right, and if it satisfies, and if it's what I'm looking for. Of course, this is not the only option to get newer, up-to-date kernels on Ubuntu. In fact, you can use the UKUU software to upgrade to an arbitrary version of whatever version of the Linux kernel you want on Ubuntu and Ubuntu derivatives. So UKUU has been out there for quite a while now, and for anyone that really does need a newer kernel on anything that's not AWS. You can just do that as you've always been able to. Still, again, pretty disappointed by Canonical. They could have rolled this with to the wider Ubuntu ecosystem. Anyway, missed opportunity, but what can you do about it? I really hope that they think about bringing it to mainstream Ubuntu. Anyway, moving on to the next, well, kind of news. I want to count it as a news point. I want to talk about ungoogling your life and some little news with the TechBill's YouTube channel. So, in the recent years, I've been trying to move further away from Google services, and for people that know me, this is no secret. I used to be a kind of a Google fan in a way. Can you be a Google fan? I like Google services. They're convenient. The ecosystem is pretty decent. Of course, what led me away were the privacy concerns and the fact that I don't really feel comfortable anymore selling my data. Anyway, at this point in my life, I'm pretty satisfied where I am, mostly thanks to my home server being able to self-host literally whatever I want or need to. Even my Android phone at this point runs Lineage OS without any Google services, and to be honest, I'm really proud of having been able to accomplish that, because running Android without Google is not the greatest experience, but I'm still able to do that, so I'm really grateful I managed to pull it off. Still, there are some services that are simply not that easy, if not possible at all, to replace. Namely, YouTube. Yes, the very platform you're watching this content on. Of course, it's a Google product, and I don't want to get rid of it because it's still a Google product. And I mean, well, there are many problems with YouTube for both creators and consumers, and honestly, I don't really want to delve too deep into it, as they're well known, and at this point, they're probably just public knowledge. But anyway, moving away from YouTube would just be dumb. Because most of the audience and most of the people that I want to reach with my videos and my live streams are on YouTube, and anyone that isn't, well, it's the lesser part of the population. I shouldn't really care about that, and I use the word should here. I shouldn't care about them, but in a way I care about them, because I want to be able to, for my content, to be able to reach everyone out there without any discrimination. And if for some reason one of my videos is, say, blocked in your country, or if you don't want to use YouTube for privacy reasons, which I totally understand, I still want you to be able to watch my content, because I think that it could bring some value to you. So things might just be changing with a new service that's been getting more and more popular recently, particularly among Linux and open source oriented content creators. I'm talking about LBRY, or library as some people call it. So LBRY is an open source alternative to YouTube that's built around blockchain. It has some kind of decentralization, and, well, not in the same way that, say, Mastodon is decentralized or Matrix, but it's still not a centralized service, and the user still has control around the content that's in the platform, and that's because it's built around blockchain. And if you know me personally, you know that I'm not really a big proponent of blockchain. I don't like the technology. I have many concerns about it. I understand that the technical capabilities of such a technology are great and have to be explored. Still, I don't really feel too comfortable around blockchain, but in this case, it really just makes sense, because everything is based around blockchain transactions with this virtual coin called LBRY credit, LBC. Users have total control with transactions of what's going on with the platform. So I don't really want to delve too deep into it. It's just really it removes the middleman in the with content creation, so that a content creator can just publish the content and users can decide what's popular and what gets more well, what rises up in the algorithm, if you want, by tipping him. So giving the creator a small sum of money, or just even watching the video, some amount of library credits already go to the content creator, or they can just, I mean, viewers can just tip creators manually a custom amount of library credits. And I mean, I think that one library credit at this point is about $1. So it's not, I mean, as all cryptocurrencies that are not Bitcoin, the conversion isn't all that crazy. Still, I mean, apparently many other YouTubers that I've been following, many other content creators that I've seen have moved. Well, they haven't moved. I'm not even moving myself. They're just mirroring their content on LBRY. Apparently, they're even getting better monetization from LBRY, and possibly, so I think that this could possibly be like something to explore for me, for my channel, for Tech Pills. And with this, I want to announce that the Tech Pills YouTube channel, all past and future content is and will be available on LBRY at the address lbry.tv/@techpills. So I hope that you are interested in this new platform. If you're a privacy-minded person, maybe you can find some more value in LBRY. And let me know what you think. If you think that, if you don't like the platform for any reason, make sure to let me know. I'm not still 100% convinced on it. I think it's pretty cool. I think that it could just be able to compete with YouTube. Still, again, let me know what you guys think. I'm always looking for your feedback. Of course, on these kind of things, I'm very interested on what you have to say about it. And let me know in the chat or in the comments, or join the Telegram group or whatever. Just make sure to let me know. So again, you can now find the Tech Pills YouTube channel also on LBRY at lbry.tv/@techpills. And with that, guys, I think that this is gonna wrap it up for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you liked it, please make sure to press the thumbs up button down there. Also remember to subscribe to my channel if you want more of this. Also, guys, remember to join the Tech Pills community at techpills.technology/community, or you can use the QR codes that are here on site. Again, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.